Peyton Manning is arguably the greatest quarterback of all time, sheer football royalty, but on February 2nd, 2014, he had the worst night of his life. A 43-8 Super Bowl ass-kicking so thorough, brutal, nightmarish, it deserves a deep dive into the film archives for us to find out what really happened. The Legion of Boom Seattle Seahawks were absolutely no joke. In a year where Peyton won MVP, set the single-season record with nearly 5,500 passing yards and 55 touchdowns, well, the Legion of Boom didn't allow a first down till 11 minutes left in the second quarter. We all know they majored in the Seattle cover 3, so let's define exactly what that is before we dive further into this utter domination. Cover 3 refers to 3 deep defenders playing deep thirds, which leaves 4 underneath and the last 4 rushing the passer. With Earl Thomas playing the middle third, Cam Chancellor and Bobby Wagner playing middle hooks, the Seahawks were able to keep everything underneath and then quickly rally to the ball and boom ya. One thing that made them stand out is their massive size at corner. Typically, you want your corners playing off to get to their deep thirds, but what was different about the Seattle cover 3 is that the corners would play press bail. They didn't actually hear, but they'd use their size to press the outside corners while still playing over the top. This Seattle cover 3 transformed NFL defenses who copied their schemes for about 8 years. Everybody played cover 3 because of them. The philosophy was simple. Play just one type of coverage so your defense knows their assignments every down so that everybody could play lightning fast. But what if I told you the Hawks threw a changeup in the Super Bowl? They shockingly played a ton of man and totally threw the Broncos off. Denver's prolific offense was centered around getting their superstars the ball in space with simple concepts, nothing too crazy scheme-wise. And while Peyton's arm strength had dwindled, he was the best point man to deliver crisp, accurate passes underneath. So after their first snap debacle that went for a safety, now down 5-0, they began with one of their staples, this simple packaged play, which is basically 2 plays in one, a run and a pass, technically an RPO before RPOs in the NFL were a thing. The offensive line and running back are playing this like it's a run no matter what, but if Cam Chancellor slides too far in to defend the run, that gives the Broncos a 3-on-2 advantage. Peyton holds the ball to throw the screen. He had the 9th highest screen rate in 2013. However, because the Seahawks play that one high safety cover 3, they can match the 3 receivers and still have a 6-on-5 advantage in the box. With one extra defender, the Seahawks can engage each blocker and let their 6th defender Cliff Avril, who arguably should have been the MVP of the game, drill Noshawn Moreno, and look at this upfront domination. A massively underrated part of the Legion of Boom was their pass rush and front in general, and the Broncos couldn't run at all the entire night. Everybody was talking nonstop about this new Seahawks cover 3, so it was shocking for Denver when they came out and played a ton of man. When they played man coverage, just like in zone, they'd position Earl Thomas into this deeper role to fly sideline to sideline all over the field, and bring Cam Chancellor down as the robber to help out with anything in the intermediate middle, and watch this hit. This Bam Bam Cam set the scene for the rest of the entire night, as he sent 5-time Pro Bowler Demaryius Thomas flying backwards, which sent the message. As Antonio Cromartie, Phillip Rivers, and Deion Sanders said, "We coming." The Broncos offense relied on super quick passes to get their playmakers the ball in space. 47% of Peyton's passes in this game came 5 to 10 yards over the middle, but the Seahawks prepared for this, were too fast, and they knew what was coming. Here they play their cover 3 zone, this time with Cam dropping to the deep middle as a changeup, but also drop an additional lineman over the middle, so they just rush 3 and clog up that gap they knew Peyton was going to target. Even just rushing 3, this is our first taste of Cliff Avril dominating the game, where after a couple of these quick pressures, Peyton started speeding up his process, playing uncomfortable, and ultimately later panicking on multiple occasions. On the first play of the second drive, we have our cover 3 example from earlier, where the Broncos run Hank to stretch out the zone coverage. Hank is a mirrored curl and flat outside, and an over-the-ball route up the middle. Let's say each corner takes the curl, each flat defender takes the flat. Peyton can then read the 2 middle hooks to see if they stretch out to defend the curl, where if one does, that leaves Welker open over the middle. However, The Seahawks are so fast and so sound in their coverage technique, they can get away with what they call their no cover rule, where if anything is under 5 yards in their zone coverage, they ain't defending it. So while technically this reads out to where Peyton should target either flat with the curls covered, there's just not a lot of meat on the bone if he does, so he just hits Welker underneath for only 5. They kept running Hank over and over in hopes to stretch out this cover 3 zone, but the Seahawks were just too disciplined. On the 5 times the Broncos ran Hank, they only once gained more than 5 yards. Later on this second drive, this is when things really started to unravel. It's 3rd and 7, and this is when the pressure starts hitting home. The Seahawks are again running man coverage, now with Chancellor the deep defender, and when the pressure closes in, Peyton gets uncomfortable and throws the crossing route too early and inaccurately. The Seahawks front is just too versatile and fast, where Orlando Franklin thinks Michael Bennett is going to hit him and switch with Earl so that he can jump back inside. But Bennett is too twitchy, Earl flies untouched, and totally affects the throw. The next drive, the Broncos go back to their package plays, and now they have 2 on 3, but with Wes Welker as one of the lead blockers, the Broncos simply were not ready for the Seahawks' power and physicality to execute their screen game. Speaking of screens, they ran 9 of them for just 28 yards, and the hidden reason why they got nothing going all day was the speed and unrelenting effort of the Seahawks' defensive line. A few of these examples would be huge explosive plays, maybe even touchdowns, but the Hawks front busted their ass off the line when they saw the ball going short outside and limited one of the best parts of the Broncos offense throughout the night. A critical part of the game Denver failed to exploit was the holes in cover 3 zone. Because cover 3 has the 3 deep defenders with the 2 corners outside, since both of them need to keep their eyes on the quarterback in zone, they need to bail backwards with their butts to the sideline, which leaves, well, the sideline open on comebacks, but Peyton didn't throw any of these even once. While you could certainly say he had several of them open throughout the game, at the end of the day, the Seahawks pass rush dominated this game, and with the score 15-0 at this point, the big man up front turned it into a blowout. The Seahawks had a coverage wrinkle called Cover 3 Weak Mabel, the usual Cover 3, but with a weak side safety rotation, and Mabel is wordplay for man, where they man up the backside so they can push another defender to the strength of the formation. At the snap, Peyton sees Earl Thomas rotating away from Demaryius Thomas, so he thinks he can hit the one-on-one and get this deep ball over his head. Yes, there's also a comeback probably coming open down here instead, if he's looking, but the pass rush closes in an instant and changes the game. Cliff Averill to the right and Chris Clemens to the left absolutely annihilate the tackles, and so while Peyton is trying to get this ball off deep, it is not his fault. The pass flutters, interception, touchdown. The pass rush really took a toll on him. Even when the Seahawks lined up wrong and receivers came wide open, Peyton just wasn't comfortable and wildly forced passes, missed open receivers, which he never does. Down 29-0, he just decided to chuck up go balls. To him, these corners seem to be playing everything so close and are able to rally up so quickly. Let's try skying one over their heads. But this is actually exactly what Cover 3 is designed to take away, and his efforts were futile. Now, it wasn't all bad. Okay, yeah, it was. But there was still a little bit of Peyton magicianry that I need to share with you. Seattle is in a clear man alignment with the corners pressed on each receiver, so everybody in all of New Jersey knows it's man coverage one-on-one. Manning audibles, probably Omaha's at some point to bring Thomas in closer to run what everybody thinks will be a pick play, a common man beater, so when Welker and Thomas run at each other to pick off the defenders, they switch, but it's a trap. Welker cuts back inside and picks up an easy first down. This is an I know that you know that I know type of play that Peyton was famous for, but by this point, the game had gotten out of hand way too fast. The Seahawks went on to win 43-8 in absolute dismantling and catapulted them into the conversation of greatest defense of all time as they shut down the greatest offense of all time. In my opinion, this wasn't as much a matter of great scheme beating great scheme on either side. Seattle's defense was lightning quick, they had superstars up front, at linebacker roaming the secondary, and Peyton had an absolute miserable night. I do think he got rattled from the pass rush and played one of his worst games. He'd go on to win his second Super Bowl 2 years later, then retire. But that night, the Seahawks were going to steamroll anybody they played, because they are an all-time team. Peyton Manning has done everything you could possibly ever do on a football field. 14 Pro Bowls, 5 MVPs, 7 All-Pros, 2 Super Bowls. He finishes the all-time leader in passing yards, touchdowns, and career wins. But in this one single game, we witnessed the worst night of his life.